r/AskReddit. Uber passengers of Reddit that have given 1/5 stars on a ride. What happened to make it so bad? Kept talking me non-stop and was asking me sexual questions and kept trying to show me music videos on his phone while driving and drove me to the wrong location and ended up charging me more. Immediately gave him a 1 star. I was taking an Uber home from the airport. The ride was perfect and he even insisted on dropping my baggage to the front door. Awesome. He then asked if he could use the restroom really quick and of course I obliged. He wasn't in there for more than 3 minutes. But when I went to wash my hands after, I found my bathroom destroyed. Shit was all over the toilet seat and just fucking everywhere. I really wish he had just taken more than a minute and chat like a normal human being, but the dude must have had a leaky butthole because there was shit on my walls too. A 1-star review was the bare minimum, I think. Uber driver was visibly drunk. Not blackout drunk. But it was obvious he was having a hard time staying in his lane. He kept veering over the yellow line. Then would jerk the wheel the other way, nearly running us off the road a few times. He also had an open can of Bud Lights in his cup holder. I had him drop me off a few blocks from my actual destination because I didn't want to die that night. Rated him 1 star. And reported him. Not sure if anything came from it. She was simultaneously driving for Lyft and picked up another passenger completely out of our way. Then proceeded to brag about how she picked up some high school kids earlier and they had their destination set to the liquor store where she bought them liquor. She had 3 kids with her. 1 in the front. Probably 14. A preteen in the back and a toddler. No older than 3 also in the back with no car seat. She was also driving erratically and reeked of weed. They just never came. I waited 20 minutes and the car drove around in circles nowhere near my location. I eventually just cancelled, but it when I did my score dropped. I went from a 5.00 to like a 4.9 or something. So she must have rated me. Then it gave me the option to rate her, so I gave her a 1/5. I don't know if it was a glitch or what, but now I can never recover my perfect score. He refused to acknowledge my presence and kept asking my husband if he thought it was fine that he, the driver, wanted to take a second wife because he believed men should be happy. My husband was not about that at all and said that if he wanted a second wife, she deserved a second husband, and the driver flipped out and told us that men deserve more than women and that she should be fulfilled by taking care of his children. It was incredibly surreal, uncomfortable and demeaning. So yeah. A big complaint was filed with Lyft. Edit. He specifically said he did not believe in divorce and wanted multiple wives because it was normal in his religion. I'm also the person that ordered and paid for the ride, and he actually shushed me several times for chiming in. I was at the DC Zoo and needed to get the metro and had foolishly decided I didn't need my cane, so didn't want to walk back. The driver picked me up and tried to convince me to just get a ride to Union Station instead of the nearest red line. When I declined, he pulled over and cancelled the ride, reporting me as drunk and abusive. Tried to sleep with me. I had to call Uber and report them. Immediately when I got in the car, I was hit by an incense smell that was so strong it gave me an instant headache. She spent the whole ride trying to get me to join her essential oil downline in a well-known oil MLM. I declined politely and then firmly. I thought. We got to my destination and my head was pounding. She stopped and locked the doors. She told me that she wasn't going to let me out until I gave her my email address. I kind of chuckled and unlocked my door, and she immediately locked it again. Then she pressed child lock so that when I tried to open the door it didn't budge. I was shocked and scared. And she repeated that I had to give her my email address and handed me a notepad and pen. I made one up and dashed out of there. Immediately reported her. A couple of weeks later she somehow found me on Facebook and sent a friend request. Needless to say, I blocked her. The guy fell asleep at the wheel and rear-ended a car in front of us. Then tried to flee. Then left me at the side of the freeway. At Fruitvale in Oakland. In the end I got a $500 credit from Uber. My Uber was new to the area and attempted to drive down a railroad track. I asked what he was doing and he said, "Oh sorry. I was on a work trip in another city. Riding into my first shift at around 5 AM. We were having a casual conversation and he asked whether I had a boyfriend. I said yes. As we were pulling into the empty parking lot, no one else was there yet. And I was trying to figure out which of the buildings I was supposed to be in. He asked if I would go get a coffee with him instead. I said no. And told him I thought it was the building straight ahead. But he turned the other way and started circling the parking lot. He said something about no one else being there yet, so I should just get coffee with him. And I said no again and asked him to just stop and let me out and I would find my way by foot. He let me out but then pulled into a parking spot and lingered there until sometime after I found my way in. He decided it was a good time to practice the flute. Took an Uber from my house to the airport for a work trip. Flight was at 10 AM. Picked me up at 7:30. Got a call from my boss on the way in. Driver screamed at me to hang up because he couldn't hear his podcast on his headphones. My boss, who heard the insane rant, told the entire team to switch to Lyft or taxis after that. He hit a cyclist who was taking home a pizza slice. Didn't help him up. Didn't buy him a new pizza slice. He also ran a bunch of red lights. And asked for 5 stars at the end. The woman turned into the wrong lane going directly against traffic. And then she got lost completely. Despite having GPS. It was a bit unnerving to say the least. Being one of my first Uber rides, I mistakenly sat on the front instead of the back. While he was taking me home, I'm a ref. He started talking to me and randomly threw in there that he could give me his phone number to make him my regular driver and then proceeded to say he was kidding and placed his hand on my leg. I was wearing shorts. I felt extremely uncomfortable and unsafe because he dropped me home. I immediately reported him to Uber and they actually called me to have a better sense of what happened. They never told me exactly what they did, but they did say they took appropriate action, so who knows. He drove the wrong way down a busy downtown 4-lane street on a Friday evening. All while telling us he just came from the local comedy club, which I happen to know has a 2-drink minimum on Fridays. I was terrified. I'm a RedditJar driver. And only rarely take Uber DD as a passenger. The first one I gave was because the car was absolutely fucking filthy. I know after a long night the car can get a little dirty. But this seriously looks like it had never been cleaned, vacuumed in forever. The trip itself was okay though. The next one came about due to the driver herself. It was a DD trip. And I needed to make a quick stop en route at an ATM. First, the driver berated me for not having my proper name in the app. Turns out this was a DD platform error. Nothing I'd done wrong. Then argued endlessly with me about putting in intermediate stops. At the time DD didn't allow you edit the route or have multiple stops. You can now. And this bitch refused to admit she was wrong. She stopped the car and told me to get out. But kept the trip running and drove towards my destination. 1D her. Reported her for fraud and got a refund. Last one was the driver who was clearly annoyed because he didn't want to do the trip. Which was 30 minutes from the city to where I was staying. She was texting and driving. Yelled fuck as she almost hit the curb while entering the interstate. And she wasn't wearing a seatbelt. We were stoned and terrified the whole time. My Uber picked up someone else instead of me. When I called him to tell him that wasn't me, he put the passenger on the phone and kept driving to the destination. I had to cancel it and I think he dropped the passenger off at some random spot in town. Uber wouldn't refund my ride either. The driver didn't want to wait in traffic, so he drove up onto the sidewalk. We all screamed at him to get back on the road as he continued to drive down the sidewalk while pedestrians ran out of the way. He told us that it wasn't a sidewalk. It was an Uber lane. It was a miracle he didn't actually run anyone over. Said I look just like their ex-girlfriend and asked me out to their favorite restaurant in a follow-up text message. Also had an old Indian woman come pick me up outside of a hotel. And watched her circle me 10 times while I waved at her in the middle of the street. We even made eye contact several times, but she just kept on passing me. When she finally pulled up to me, she almost hit me. I think she may have been at least partially blind. Then she did 20 under the speed limit the whole way there lol. 1/5. Driver took the wrong exit from the traffic circle by my office. then missed her turn 3 times. I could see her when she was in the circle, but it took her at least 15 minutes to actually pick me up. Then on the highway she ignored when the app told her to take the local lanes, so we had to sit in traffic to the next exit where she could turn around. 5 miles. 25 minutes of traffic each direction to turn around. I could see my destination when she missed the exit but just couldn't get to it. And to top it off, she was super annoying and talked a lot. Complained to Uber. They refunded me $1.35. Lol. Rode in the front due to number of passengers. She shifted into P every time we were stopped at a light. Then proceeded to tell us about her abusive exes and about how now she carries a loaded handgun in her purse. Which was by my feet. Because if she ever runs into that last ex, she's gonna shoot him. My sister gave a Uber driver 1/5. He did not understand a word of English. And apparently could not read English either, as he disregarded nearly every street sign, including no left, which she yelled at him for as he was about to make a left on no left across a very busy intersection. He also attempted to back up when he missed a street. She yelled at him for that one too, given it was on a busy street. She immediately rated him 1/5. She contacted them and told them that the man should not be driving for them. He is a very unsafe driver. They told her they would unpair her with him. Great. Someone else will get killed, I'm sure. He had a lot of stuff in the back and made me ride in the front with him. I hate riding in the front with Uber drivers, so I told him I'll just get another Uber, and he persisted for me to ride with him. I was already late to a dinner with my family, so I got in, and it was more uncomfortable because he asked a lot of personal questions like where I worked and what my shifts were. Once I got out, I immediately gave him 1 star and would have given him some negative stars as well if I could. I was riding with a bag of specialty groceries, and the driver asked what I had bought. I was happy to make idle chit chat, so I answered truthfully. I was going to make a goat curry. Over the next 10 minutes, he monologued about how much he loved goat curry, and how you just can't get a good one in this town. And he needed to marry a wife who made a good goat curry. And he'd never met a woman who even liked goat before. And my curry must be really good. And can he have my number? Can he have my number? He needed my number. I'd obviously make a good wife and give him lots of children and lots of good goat curry. Phone number? I gave him a fake number and scrambled out of the back seat. Never have I felt more grateful that I was being dropped off at the subway station, and not in front of my apartment. Lyft. Got pulled over for speeding and no seatbelt. Proceeded to then say he's gotten 4 seatbelt tickets and won't ever wear one. Also had a beat to shit car. Not sure how it was Lyft approved. He was running Lyft and Uber at the same time. I had to make it to work, and halfway through he started a ride in the other app and started going the wrong direction. What? Bro, take me to my destination please. They drove with their knee. Even after I asked them to please not to. Didn't acknowledge me at all. Had some song screaming just suck that dick and eat that pussy on loop. And was Facebooking while driving. I had a guy pick me up with his car smelling like meth. He tried to convince me to take his number and he would drive me around without the Uber app. Also tried to make me sit up front and gave me really weird compliments. The driver didn't take me to my location. Had a messy car. Smelled really bad. Spent the whole time talking on the phone driving one-handed. Didn't follow my directions. I had him pull over so I could get a different driver. He asked if he could take me out sometime. I told him I wasn't interested. Then he started blaring his music. Luckily, I was only a couple minutes from my destination. This Uber driver was extremely curious about my life. He asked me if I was partying or drunk. He asked me if I lived by myself and new in town, and he started talking about how he liked Indian women. It was very uncomfortable. That night I slept with a hammer under my pillow. It was so scary. Asked me if I liked cocaine within the first few minutes. Then proceeded to tell me about how much he loved it, including a story about when he'd once done crack and tried to throw himself out of a window because he felt so depressed afterward. Then tried to take my number. I was running late for my flight. Driver didn't realize that he couldn't drop me off at the airport because he didn't have a special permit for that. Instead of telling me to find another Uber, he drove around the corner and busts waits for me to do something until I let myself out. I was still charged the cancellation fee and I ended up having to call 3 Ubers. If my flight wasn't delayed by 10 minutes, I would have missed it. Know what? You know reverse card. I used to drive for Uber. I once starred a passenger because he wanted me to end the trip early, then drive him the rest of the way to save him money. Because come on bro. I once starred a passenger because he booked a regular Uber, 4 seat belts, despite having a group of 8 people. Because an Uber XL costs like $1 more. I once starred an old drunk lady because she would not stay in her seat and off my head. Yes, Ethel. My head is shaved. And it is hella sexy. But we are on the freeway. Sit the fuck down. I once starred a dude who changed his destination 6 times in one trip. And made me change it on his phone for him. I once starred a pair of freshman chicks who were mad that I wouldn't let them light a joint in my car. You're not that cute. Liz and Elizabeth. I once starred every single drunk motherfucker who got pizza grease, falafel bits, or fried chicken crumbs in my car. I have to clean that. You little shits. Said get in. Bitch as I was walking up to the car. Then when I got in the back he started mouthing off to the guy beside him at a red light. Told him he's fucked and gave him 1 star. His car reeked of Old Spice body spray and he dropped us off 12 blocks from the location. Nothing. She was great. We hadn't used Uber in years and accidentally hit 1 star instead of 5. We thought we'd get a chance to correct it but nope. Already locked in. We felt terrible. Gave a nice tip and called customer support to try and fix it but were told they don't allow reviews to be changed for any reason. Fortunately the lady had a ton of reviews and a 4.9 AVG so we probably didn't bring it down too much. Stopped on the highway to read road signs during rush hour more than once. 2 stories YAY. First one. My mom and I were on our way back from my dentist appointment. And we ordered one. However, the place is like a maze so it took him a long time to find us. But my mom was talking to him on the phone so whatever. So he finds us and we get in. Normal ride. Then we get to our house and after 10 minutes my mom got the cancelled ride. What was normally a $10 ride was a $30-40 ride. My mom got a refund and gave 1 star. Next one. For my birthday we were going out and decided to get a ride. This old man picks us up. Normal ride up until we get to a turn that he should take. But he doesn't because the app tells him something different than my mom and she doesn't say anything fast enough by the time. My mom casually mentions how it'll be a couple bucks over what it normally costs. The dude tries to argue and then out of nowhere he starts yelling at my mom who's kept a calm voice and literally wouldn't let us out until we got there and was just a general ass. Once again 1 star. Was going across the Bay Bridge at 1 AM and I notice the driver's head keeps drooping down throughout the trip. We're about halfway across the bridge heading to the East Bay and his head droops down and he swerves across 2 lanes to the right abruptly. I yell at him. He wakes back up and acts as if nothing happened. Saw my life flash. Reported that guy. Played gospel music. Even after I asked them to turn it off. Refused to roll up the windows and provide air conditioning in the summer heat. Refused to stop and let me out after I requested them to do so. Ignored repeated requests of the above 3 items for the entire trip. If I hadn't been loaded down with grocery bags, I would have jumped out at a stoplight. They drove 25 kilometers below the speed limit. Flipped off the locals honking and overtaking them. Took a longer route because he knows the area really well, etc. I was silent and understanding the whole ride except when I calmly explained why the locals are mad at the guy going 75 kilometers on a 100 kilometer road. After I got to my stop I looked at my passenger rating and lost my perfect 5 stars. Asshole. Texted and drove. Messed up simple GPS directions 3 times. It's 6 turns to my house and she fucked it up so bad. It was wild. We were in Vegas and were heading to the zombie burlesque show so we called an Uber. The dude was a bit off as he didn't really acknowledge us. I think he was messed up on something as he was super sweaty and his face kept twitching. He then covered everything from the neck down with a large towel and I believe he was jerking off while speeding through the strip. The final part was him driving 50 miles per hour in the underground parking garage at the Planet Hollywood Casino and was weaving between pillars which he almost hit. We got out the second he had to stop due to cars being in front of him. Used to be a driver but can say I've gotten a 1/5 before as retaliation for giving a 3/5 to the rider for clipping nails in my backseat and I'm unprofessional. This is why reviews should be double blind. Halfway to the airport. For a flight I was running a little late for, but would have made it. The driver pulled off at a random exit. Announced that he didn't feel like going all the way to the airport and had somewhere else to be soon. Made me get out and call another Uber. Only low rating I've ever given. Still made my flight. But just barely. In southern France we had one Uber driver who kept looping around and running up the trip. He also went exceedingly fast on a hillside road with blind corners and two-way traffic. We also had one that picked us up in Nice and was supposed to take us to Monaco but went through Nice. Nice is halfway between Nice and Monaco, so we were already halfway to Monaco and he went all the way back to Nice first. Both times we rated 1 star and complained and got reimbursed for part of the trips. Only did 1/5 twice. First driver was high. Car smelled strongly of weed. He was texting constantly. Missed a few exits and crossover at last second. Second one robbed me, literally drove to a convenience store in bad area of town at 4 AM. Told me to get him $100 out of ATM if I wanted him to take me home. Reported both to Uber. They gave me $20 towards a future fare in both cases and didn't say anything else or call. He drove me around the fucking planet because he missed road signs and somehow got on the highway. I looked up and was horrified. I asked him why we got on the highway and he said because he couldn't turn the other way because there was too much traffic. The trip was 15 minutes but took 1 hour and 2 minutes. It was insane. They tried to charge me for the whole trip too. Told me gleefully that she brake checks people who tailgate her. Then proceeded to do it multiple times. When I got into the car, he immediately yelled in a stern voice, "State your account ID." I take Uber almost daily, and I know drivers like to ask for your name. But I was so taken aback by the aggressive yelling. As soon as I got into the car, I was met with the most awful smell I've ever experienced in my whole life. It was like something died in his car. I had to hold my breath throughout the 20-minute ride. Then, he drove me to the wrong place. 2 times. By the second time, I just decided to walk to my destination because I was so vexed by the smell. Before I got out, after sitting in the car in silence, he yelled, "Rate 5 stars." He wouldn't unlock the door until I agreed. Yep. 1/5. They drove over my foot as I was trying to get my luggage into the car, lol. If you want to get nothing in return, you can like and join my Discord. There is a link in the description.